morning, everyone, and welcome to the Des Moines Public Schools State of the Schools. My name is Allison DeLuna, and I am currently a senior in both Hoover High School and Central Academy, and I couldn't think of a better place to be today than right here with all of you. So give yourselves a round of applause for being here this morning. Now, to get a bit personal, being here at Hoover feels like being at home, seeing as I've been here for the past 7 years, if you include the years that I've been at Meredith. These 7 years has taught me so much, especially knowing that I belong here. I belong in Des Moines Public Schools, and seeing all these familiar faces, all of you have taught me this lesson, and I cherish it dear in my heart. Now, here at Hoover, we have a community statement. We are an inclusive community school shaping a thriving Northwest side. And let me tell you, Hoover and Meredith really embody this statement. Having a student body so diverse, having a student body that is so excited and ready to thrive towards a better future. Now, this isn't just true for here at Hoover, but it's true all over the district. Talking with families, admin, the students, talking about how proud they are to being at their home schools. There are students from many countries, many religions gathering here in these schools, and I couldn't be more proud to be one of them. I'd like to thank all of the admin, the teachers, and families for being so supportive towards the students, because trust me, it does help a lot. Now, please join me in introducing one of our special guests. Jackie Norris is a business owner and a community leader. She is currently the president and owner of SPPG and Esmond Research, and she has worked in a variety of positions, including as the White House Chief of Staff to First Lady Michelle Obama, the CEO of Goodwill of Central Iowa, and as a leader in the global nonprofit Points of Light. And once an educator, always an educator. Norris was an adjunct professor in Washington, D.C., and as well as Rome, Italy. But she still says that her most rewarding position was serving as a high school government teacher, encouraging her students to use their voices and to advocate for causes they believe in. Norris's belief in that ideal inspired her to run towards the Des Moines Public School Board and led to her election to board chair in November. Now, please join me in welcoming Jackie Norris.
Thanks and good morning. Thank you, Allison, for that wonderful introduction. Hi, Mom. Are you proud? I bet. And what a great way for us to start today, because that's our why. This is why we do what we do, for people like Allison, and later you'll meet Hushindi from Hoover as well. I'm Jackie Norris, and I am proud to serve as the chair of the Des Moines School Board. I have the honor of representing a phenomenal group of directors, and I would like to recognize those individuals, including Vice Chair Maria Alonso, Ana Campos, Terry Caldwell-Johnson, Patrick Dix, Jenna Knox, and Kim Martirano. On behalf of the full board, thank you for attending today. Before we begin, I do want to recognize those elected officials that were able to join us today, including Supervisor Angela Connolly and Mayor Connie Bozen. Please give a round of thanks to all of our elected officials and anyone else I may have left out. Our goal today is to celebrate 2023 accomplishments and look forward to items on the DMPS horizon. As we look back, it is only fitting that we begin with our students, as they are at the center of all that we do at DMPS. In our district, we proudly bring together students from over 100 nations, creating a rich tapestry of cultures, perspectives, and experiences that form the cornerstone of our educational community. Our diversity is not just a statistic. It is not a challenge to be dealt with. It's our superpower. Our diversity enriches every aspect of our learning environment, fostering an atmosphere where students are not just taught about global citizenship, but experience it every day. They see classmates fasting for Ramadan, while others are protesting for gun safety at the Capitol, while others are advocating for human rights for everyone, regardless of their color, size, shape, or gender identity, while others share their native tongue in common languages such as Karen, Swahili, and Spanish. We learn about world history by watching culture and customs unfold all around us. Our students are not just learners, they are global citizens equipped with the cultural competency necessary to thrive in a globalized society that demands adaptability and appreciation for diversity. That is our differentiator, and we need to continue to lean into it. As you can see from our enrollment in the 21st century, we have peaks and valleys. Our student numbers of 30,000 are similar to 2009. We regularly review the demographic trends that help us assess age trends and geography of expected population shifts. As some of the most recent changes have taken place with educational savings accounts and open enrollment, we continue to monitor trends, but we also know that our best offense is to have a great defense, because defense wins championships. So we intend on being the best school district in Central Iowa where people want to send their students. In addition to boasting 30,000 students, DMPS is also one of Central Iowa's largest employers, employing 4,700 teachers and staff, with almost 50% of those holding advanced degrees. Our physical footprint is seen across the community, externally with playgrounds and soccer fields and walking tracks, and indoors with our auditoriums and gymnasiums. Community members walk through our buildings every day and use our facilities for meetings and events. We should be proud of the facilities team and custodial staff and all who keep everything looking so nicely each and every day. Well, 2023 was quite a year. While I wish I had hours to list all of the DMPS accomplishments, I want to call out a few that are in alignment with DMPS vision and values. In 2023, the City of Des Moines partnered with DMPS to add 6 new preschool classrooms. As you will hear later, preschool works and leads to better academic outcomes in literacy, among other things. So we need to continue to speak up and cite the research. Preschool works. Thank you to the City Council of Des Moines and other leaders for your partnership in this program. Post-pandemic, DMPS is the only district that provides free meals to all students. What a statement that makes to kids and families. That they always know that they have a free meal when they come in our building for breakfast or lunch. All are welcome. And we continue to invest in our physical infrastructure to take steps to keep our staff and students safe through investments in technology and public safety staff. With gun violence events increasing, we must do everything we can to strengthen our safety infrastructure for our students and staff. As you can see, in 2023, all 5 DMPS high schools saw greater growth in the Iowa statewide assessment of student progress test than every other high school in the metro. And way to go, Lincoln, for leading the way. I don't know about you, but I love when we beat the suburbs. In testing, in sports, in activities, quite honestly, just about anything. And we all know that our amazing faculty and staff are the people who lead the charge in our buildings. I would be remiss if I did not begin with a recognition of Ann Minks, Hoover's hometown hero and the 10th DMPS teacher to receive this accolade. In this slide, you also see coaches recognized for embodying character counts values, club advisors being honored for their commitment for speech and debate, principals receiving accolades for support of student journalists, and school leaders receiving accolades for things they do to go above and beyond to support our students of color every day. In full circle, back to our students. It is only fitting to see these 4 young women from Hoover celebrating their 2023 track and field state recognition. Look at those faces. Goal accomplished. And it is not just sports. We have teams competing in NASA app development challenges, math students participating as one of 2 US teams in math modeling challenges, veterinary science teams and rifle teams, all representing DMPS with pride. It really does take a village. But as all of you know, the work of supporting over 30,000 students and families is hard. We are proud to boast over 180 community partners who support our schools in big and small ways. On any given day, you can see our community in action. Volunteers in classrooms reading or helping with math. Groups providing coats and hats to keep kids warm during the winter. Conflict resolution groups helping students in middle schools. Artists sharing their talents in the school buildings. Groups providing after-school programming. We are so lucky to have the help of our community partners, and we couldn't do it without them. I would be remiss if I did not mention the Des Moines Public Schools Foundation. They continue to grow and identify ways they can support our students and our staff. This year, they had the largest one run ever and put on the first DMPS Foundation dinner welcoming our new superintendent. As some of you know, the school board believes that identifying and publicly monitoring student outcomes helps to ensure that we are putting students at the center of our board decisions. These outcome measures are determined by the setting of board goals and guardrails, things that we would like the superintendent to achieve, and guardrails which set some parameters for them. The last board goals were set in 2019, pre-pandemic, so the board is on track to announce new and/or revised goals in the next few months. Recently, the board gathered over 1,800 surveys and completed 30 listening sessions. We are proud of our intentionality to make sure we heard from different voices, immigrant and refugee families and students, the staff that support them, our students, from those who are struggling to graduate to those who aspire to go into a trade or college, parents whose mother tongue is not English, families who are considering sending their kids to DMPS, and our staff, from drivers to paras to janitorial staff to teachers and administrators. All of the raw data and summary documents can be found on the DMPS website, and we are excited to roll up our sleeves and get to work with you. That is the spirit with which I hope we approach everything. It is time to reimagine Des Moines Public Schools and revisit every assumption. Education is changing. Our young people are so interesting, so cool, so different, so inspirational, and learn in ways that many of us were not educated to anticipate. Technology is moving at a rapid pace, and our goal as a district and a board is to ensure that we keep looking towards the horizon line to see what is next to support them. How very exciting. In our listening sessions, we heard some things that were constant. The need for kids to be able to read at grade level. But we also heard loud pleas to make sure when students graduate, they are career or college ready. We heard an overwhelming call to ensure we are providing behavioral support to our young people more than ever before. Their need for belonging and community, emotional, physical, and mental safety was loud, and all were asking us to support our teachers in this very complicated world we live in, where teachers are asked to do so much. With a continued underfunding of public education, DMPS is no different than any other school district in Iowa, faced with significant cuts. We see it happening in neighboring districts as well. With that being said, we can look at it as a challenge, or we can look at it as an opportunity, and we must do the latter. We must challenge ourselves to innovate, challenge conventional wisdom, stop doing things if they don't yield results, reimagine physical infrastructure, and identify less traditional ways to help kids achieve academic success. A good leader once told me that there are multiple pathways to get from point A to point B. As lifelong learners, we all need to be open to trying pathways for the visual, auditory, read, writing, and kinesthetic learners. We need young people to see why learning something can support them in their long-term career. But by far, the biggest decision of 2023 we made was the selection of our superintendent. Before I introduce him, I do want to give a special message to you, our audience. To our teachers and staff, you are responsible for creating an environment where students feel safe, heard, and supported, laying the foundation for their academic success and personal growth. We understand the weight and the pressure of that role weighing on your shoulders. We offer our deepest gratitude and admiration to each educator, principal, or staff member for your unwavering dedication, resilience, and commitment to our students' well-being. To our community, success will come faster with better results if you are by our side as an engaged partner in our district. In the next few months of the budgeting process, the superintendent and school board will be confronted with numerous competing needs and priorities. We will need to find efficiencies and make difficult choices. We are prepared to do that, but we cannot do it alone. Together, we can find success. To our governor and legislative leaders, your actions this year could have a profound impact on our young people's lives and futures, for the better or for the worse. Please move beyond partisan divides and take decisive action to support public education. This is about kids, not politics. As I introduce Dr. Roberts, I want to say how excited the board was in his selection. We listened to the community, and we heard loud and clear from our community that you wanted someone ready to lead change and disrupt the status quo, someone who had worked in large, diverse districts, someone who embodied excellence and would expect the same of his team, someone who was competitive and wanted to regain our footing as the place to send your child in Central Iowa, and they wanted a dapper and snazzy gentleman who cornered the market on suits and was affectionately called a sneakerhead. Just kidding. I now introduce you to the one clear choice for DMPS, Dr. Ian Roberts.
Good morning. I think I was just given the green light when I'm renegotiating my contract to have snazzy dress included for a bonus. I'm humbled and I'm excited to be here. You know, my mother always reminds me that if ever I'm given an opportunity to stand before such an esteemed group of individuals, that I should ask that the words of my mouth and the meditation in my heart be acceptable. And so today, I hope that it is as you receive this. Welcome to the State of the Schools, Des Moines Public Schools. During one of the first days, that's not my cue. During the very first day of preschool, I remember standing outside with many of our preschool leaders and teachers and our director, Christian Rourke, as they were greeting young people who, for the very first time, were going to be in a school environment outside of their homes. And you can get the visual at this one school. The students were all on what I call the train. I think that's what it's called, where they hold hands before they walked into the school. And they were doing that at, I believe it was Mitchell. And there's just one young lady who waved goodbye to her parents as they drove off. And she held hands with her peers. And just before they went inside, she let go of those hands, and with so much vigor and enthusiasm, she threw her arms up in the air and said, unprompted, "This is the best day of my life." And in that very moment, I thought to myself, this is the work that we're charged to do. We have to make sure that each of the 30+ thousand students who knock on our doors from pre-K to 12th grade feel as if every single day that they are attending our schools is one of the best days of their life. And that is why when we think of preschool as a top priority, we are going to continue to be relentless about this. In the current legislative session, of course, there are a number of educational bills and conversations and discussions happening. And while we are connected to and collaborating with many lobbyists and legislators on bills that will no doubtly impact our students and impact all of us, our number one priority is simply this. We are fighting, advocating, and lobbying to make sure that we value and get an opportunity in this state, but certainly here in Des Moines Public Schools, to ensure that we have full-day preschool funding for economically disadvantaged students at 180% of the federal economic level. That means that every household that makes just at or below $54,000 for a household of 4 should be entitled to have their young person attend preschool. The data is compelling. We've seen it here in Des Moines Public Schools. When we've looked at our kindergarten pre-screening data, we've seen as much as 32 percentage points difference in students who attended preschool versus those who did not in terms of how they've done on the pre-screen to get to kindergarten. And that data continues to follow students in reading and math achievement, not only in preschool, but throughout the next 4 or 5 years. We've seen double-digit gains in reading, as much as 27% of achievement for students who were able to attend preschool versus those who did not have an opportunity to attend preschool. In math, we've seen as much as 17 percentage points difference in those students. We ought to continue to fight for until we have full-day, fully funded preschool, because it could be a game changer. We've also seen some of the benefits. English language learners, for example. We know that more than 30% of our students here in Des Moines Public Schools are English language learners. We've seen the benefits that really just doesn't speak to what happens now for our students, but how it impacts their futures. We've seen students who are living in poverty are 2 times more likely to meet kindergarten benchmark. And if there's a school system that epitomizes what it means to serve students who are economically disadvantaged, it's Des Moines Public Schools, with more than 76% of our students who are considered economically disadvantaged. We have to continue to fight for and lobby for all-day preschool funding. We've also seen the societal benefits. And while there's some of the screen that you're looking at right now, that there's a $17 return for every $1 spent in preschool, I want us to think of the longitudinal tracking and impact that will have and happen on this society if we do not support preschool funding. Let's think about the sociological impact. Students who attend preschool are less likely to get on welfare, to end up in the criminal justice system, and they're more likely to experience tremendous success. We've seen how increased earnings and tax revenues will be attributed to students in their adulthood if they had an opportunity to attend one of our amazing preschools. New heights for instruction. Des Moines Public School prides itself on being an instructionally focused school system. After all, that's why we're here. There are a myriad of reasons as to what we are supposed to do every single day, but instruction is of utmost importance. From preschool to the science of reading. Here we are in the building of the State of Iowa 2024 Teacher of the Year, Ann Minks, someone who champions literacy and certainly is an advocate for the science of reading. We've seen throughout all of our preschools where they are infusing the tenets, the 5 tenets and components of the science of reading into their daily instruction. We are excited about that because we know that the research, the body of research tells us that while speaking comes naturally, to many of us, reading does not. And it is not until we invoke and commit to utilizing the components of the science of reading that we are truly going to move the needle on early literacy for our students. Additionally, our GLEAM instruction. Des Moines Public Schools currently serves one of the most diverse student populations, not only here in the state of Iowa, but in the country. About 67% of our students are non-white, with 31% of our students being classified as Latinx, 21% African Americans. More than 83 languages spoken from more than 100 countries. We've seen over the last several years how there has been a significant demographic shift in the students we're serving, but what hasn't changed or shifted is the demographic makeup of the adults who serve them. And so what has to be a commitment from each and every one of us, and we have embarked upon this, is to make sure that we are equipping every single adult with the skills and competencies to make sure that they are delivering on culturally responsive instruction and leadership so that we can truly meet the needs of all of our students. In this regard, we have invested in a partnership with Unbound Ed. They are a research-proven and incredibly credible education organization, and they have brought forward what is called the GLEAM instructional framework. And the acronym spells out, of course, for us, making sure that students are receiving rigorous and grade-level instruction, making sure that the instructional exposure that we're giving to students are truly affirming who they are based on their lived experiences, making sure such instruction is meaningful. And of utmost importance, what the GLEAM framework allows us to do, it makes sure we break down barriers between teachers, leaders, students, and even parents based on difference. So we are excited about the work that we've started, and we have a ways to go. Continuing along the lines of instruction, we have challenged each of our leaders. We have 105 administrators here in Des Moines Public Schools. And we have challenged our school leaders to make sure that they become relentlessly focused on instructional leadership. And because we are a data-driven organization, we have quantified it. The expectation that we have set is that each and every school leader, beginning this year with our principals, will spend no less than 70% of their time on the instructional core. That is a focus on what teachers are teaching, what students are learning, and what content are we exposing our students to. We've looked at a lot of research to drive this decision. New Leaders for New Schools, a credible research education organization, they've shared with us that a school principal singularly can be responsible for between 20 and 25% of student academic achievement, but only if they embrace the tenets of instructional leadership. I know that when we first rolled this out this year to our principals, I had a good look at their faces and I saw some eyes rolling. I know people were questioning, how are we going to spend 70% of our time on instructional leadership when there's so much more the principals and assistant principals have to do, because we know that by the time your feet hits the ground every single morning, principals, before you even get to school, you've already made more than 500 decisions. But instructional leadership is not one we're going to compromise. In speaking to many of our principals over the last couple of weeks, many have said and have shared quantifiable data, and I've heard principals share that they have gotten up to between 55 and as much as 60% of their time in instructional leadership. For that, principals, you ought to be commended. Give them a round of applause. The truth is, we don't expect you to be able to get this all right within the first year of new initiatives. And so I want to make sure that you understand that we see you and we understand that you're moving diligently towards accomplishing this goal. So thank you for that. Continuing along the lines of instruction and instructional leadership, I think it's important for us to be really thoughtful about the work that's ahead of us. While we observe solid instructional practices every single day, when we look at our student academic achievement, many would say that we're not where we need to be. And so that's why we're looking forward to the future. And the future is bright. It really is. When I think about what's ahead, we've decided to embark upon a multi-year initiative that we have titled Reimagining Education, Reinvigorating Our Schools. We are now in an incredibly competitive environment. And so when we think about this planning process, there's so much that we want to be able to do to make sure that we remain competitive. We want to make sure that we are prepared for the projected enrollment losses. As we've looked at our recent trend data from the last 3 to 5 years, and working with an organization to look at our prediction and future data, we're losing students either to private schools, to charter schools, or they're moving into other public schools in different parts of central Iowa. We are not daunted by this, so our Reimagining Education undertaking is intended for us to continue to make sure that we are looking in a very deep way at all of our data. We're thinking a lot about how do we better utilize our DMPS public schools buildings. The average age of our buildings is 70 years old. We cannot expect to provide a quality contemporary education to students in a prehistoric, technologically unadvanced building. That was good, right? Wasn't it? Yeah. No, but because of the work of the incomparable Matt Smith, our Associate Superintendent and Executive Director of Operations, Dave Berger, and team, I'm excited about this undertaking. Once we made it very clear to the public that this is where we are going, the response from the community has been nothing short of tremendous. And so thanks to all of those who are part of this subcommittee. Our Reimagining Education, Reinvigorating Schools undertaking will truly allow us to create new opportunities for students. We have to be bold, we have to do something different, and we have to be radical if we are going to truly be a competitive school system. And our Reimagining Education, Reimagining our Education Initiative will help us to get there. I've said over and over again that DMPS has to become the choice for students and families in Central Iowa. But it's not going to happen if we're just talking about it. As our young people would say when they utilize their vernacular, we have to be about it. And that's what this is about. That's what this is about. So, as we get ready to wrap, as we think about why this is important, we're thinking about adjusting our school boundaries. And nothing is set in stone, ladies and gentlemen. We want to make sure that everyone understands that we have very few preconceived notions, because to say that we have none would not be the truth. Because we have some thoughts about what is possible based on the data that we've looked at. We want to make sure that we are focused on looking at the possibility of consolidating some of our facilities. We want to think about how can we look at exploring some programmatic changes that we probably haven't touched before. Case in point, next year you are going to see one of our elementary schools serving as a pilot to have a pre-K through 6 school configuration. And if we can get some results from that, then we're going to think about what is next. Our Montessori offerings, we have seen the impact based on academic outcomes for students who are enrolled at Coles Montessori. My commitment, our commitment, is to expand those offerings in years to come. And these decisions should not just be made by yours truly or the executive cabinet. We remain open to hearing from you. You are some of the brightest, most intellectually gifted school leaders that I have worked with and been around. And so I want you to know that your opinion, your thoughts, your perspectives are valued, even when you're being critical, because criticism is what will drive us and inspire us. So thank you as we think about the work ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, under our Reimagining Education, Reinvigorating Schools team, I want to make sure that we are really being thoughtful about why this work is important. So once Phil changes and then gets to the next slide, I'll share with you exactly where we're going with this. We are doing amazing work. But something has plagued us and has plagued this entire country's pre-K-12 school system: chronic absenteeism. For us, nearly 36% of our students are chronically absent. And we know by the federal definition, that means that students who have missed 10% or more of the school year are chronically absent. You know, interestingly enough, in this country's pre-K-12 education system, we did not start to look at chronic absenteeism until about 2013, 2014, when the U.S. Department Office of Civil Rights decided to conduct a deep study around the impact of chronic absenteeism. Here's why we are prioritizing chronic absenteeism. The research from American University in collaboration with the U.S. Department of Education tells us that chronic absenteeism is the single most important predictor for student success in high school. Stronger than test scores, stronger than high-quality teachers or leaders. For us, we want to make sure that everyone understands, and especially our legislators, that chronic absenteeism is a multi-layered issue. Earlier, I referenced some of the bills that we are dealing with in terms of legislation. Our school board chair challenged and encouraged legislators to stop politicizing education and think about children. Chronic absenteeism is currently a bill on the Hill. And what I've encouraged those legislators with whom I've spoken to think about is not to penalize school districts because of chronic absenteeism, but to find unprecedented amounts of resources so that we can address this issue. It's multi-layered. It did not just start or begin this school year. It started many, many years ago. And if you penalize school districts, because what is being proposed is that any school district that has 20% or more of its students who are chronically absent will lose significant funding from their state SSA funds. We've looked at the research, and we know for a fact that chronic absenteeism disproportionately impacts students who are economically disadvantaged. We know that chronic absenteeism impacts students who are English language learners. We recognize that this is an issue, and because of that, our entire team, and thank you leaders for your investment in wanting to make sure that we take the necessary actions to impact chronic absenteeism. We want to make sure that our students are coming to school. If students are not here, if there are no butts in seats, it doesn't matter how incredibly amazing our pedagogical strategies are, we're not going to be able to reach them. And so we're committed to making sure that we embark upon an unprecedented campaign that is titled Everyday Matters. From television ads to billboards to knocking on doors, we want to make sure that we are increasing opportunities for students to come and knock on the doors of Des Moines Public Schools. And we cannot do this alone. Every day matters, but each and every single person in this room, your commitment, your voice, your efforts, it all matters. After all, we are Des Moines Public Schools, and we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Thank you, Chair Norris. We appreciate you both very, very much. It's time for the question and answer portion of our program, and we are also going to be recording this for our podcast, so we may, for example, reintroduce the guests. That's why we're doing that, so we just bring everybody who's listening online on board with what we're doing here today. So the questions were not provided in advance, just categories, so they are answering these for the first time. So hopefully we'll find some value here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kyle, are you ready to go? Awesome. All right. Appreciate that. Welcome to a new episode of the Become Here Project, a Des Moines Public Schools podcast. This is a special episode because we are recording live at the 2024 State of the Schools event. In our audience are educators, support staff, students, community members, and administrators. Can I ask a favor? Will you all make some noise so our folks listening can hear you? Awesome. Thank you so much. And the audience is welcome to react as they naturally would to questions and answers, just like you might at home or wherever you are listening to this podcast today. I'm your host, Amanda Lewis, and I have a student co-host with me this morning. He is a Hoover High School sophomore and the managing editor of the Hoover Challenger newspaper. Please welcome Hushindi Abwe. Is your mic on?
As Amanda said, my name is Hushindi Abwe, a sophomore here at Hoover High School. This will be my second year taking the newspaper course here at Hoover. Being a part of the Challenger, aka Hoover's newspaper, has really helped me to express myself in ways I never thought I would be able to. It has also given me a voice within my school and the community to speak on certain things going on. But with that being said, I would like to introduce Dr. Ian Roberts and Jackie Norris. Thank you.
We will be taking turns asking questions submitted during the RSVP process. Welcome. Are you ready to begin?
We are.
Excellent.
We tried to bribe Hushindi ahead of time for the questions. There you go.
Didn't work. Didn't
He's
work.
a true journalist. He
Yes.
is not going to provide
Yes.
them. Okay, question number one. This is a great time for this question from an attendee in the room today. I saw him out there. Dr. Roberts and Chair Norris, looking out into the audience at all of these faces, please in one sentence, describe what you see right now when you look at them.
Unlimitless potential.
Tremendous support and inspiration for what is to come.
Dr. Roberts, what is your plan regarding hiring and retaining people of color in teaching positions, particularly African Americans, and increasing the recruiting and rotation of culturally proficient, high-quality teacher and school support staff?
Thank you. Excellent question, Hushin. This is one that certainly causes me to lose sleep at night. So the plan, I would say, is threefold. One, we have to be incredibly creative. We, being myself, in collaboration with every single person who's a part of our talent and personnel team, to make sure that we are extending and expanding our recruitment boundaries. We have to go beyond the state of Iowa. Secondly, we have to make sure that we are intentionally targeting schools of education in our historically black colleges and universities. And then thirdly, I think we have to be really thoughtful about people's lived experiences, right? What I've seen is we have a number of individuals who are likely to bring a tremendous amount of skills and experiences to our schools, because they've had something in their past, particularly in terms of their interactions with the criminal justice system, we have been using that as a barrier towards them or for them. So I want to make sure that we truly anchor our work in this belief that people are so much better than the worst thing they've ever done.
Love that. I have a question from a student from East High School. If DMPS is considering staffing cuts to balance budget, how would that impact the high schools next year?
I'm happy to answer that. The one thing that I'll say is if we ever find ourselves in a situation where, in order for us to become fiscally sound and we have to make adjustments to our budget, the last place that we would attempt to make cuts from is places that directly impact students and student outcomes. And so I do not foresee any significant impact on our high schools. And that's a conversation that will be ongoing, because we want to make sure that we're leveraging not only student input, but input from teachers and staff who are serving in our high schools.
Okay.
And this question expands on the student question. Whenever we begin to talk about budget cuts, there's an understandable anxiety not only about personal futures, but also class sizes, having enough support staff, caring for the emotional and other basic needs of our students, all leading to the pressing question of how we will meet the promise of preparing students for life beyond high school. Please address those concerns.
So I'll remind everybody that one of the things that we heard that was really interesting when we did our board listening sessions was from families, from students, from our community saying, we want to make sure our young people have career pathways. It wasn't, we want to make sure that all kids go to college. And one of the things that I think we're really excited about is to be looking at all of the, expand on what we offer at Central Campus and make sure that our kids are learning in a way that prepares them to go to their next chapter. It could be a great paying job, and if that's the case, we want to make sure that they know how to negotiate for health benefits and retirement. If they go on to the trades or other training programs, just that they have a pathway, and it's something that is connected to joy and passion and fulfillment in their life long term.
And the next question, noting our growing population of multilingual students, families, and community members, what will the preservation of their primary languages look like, and how do we build up our monolingual students to join with our multilingual community?
Excellent question. I think it's threefold, right? The first is we have to dispel a long-standing practice here in this country and certainly here in Des Moines, that a student's first language is something that they should get rid of. The second is we want to make sure that we create an environment that embraces every single person's lived experience, and we should not do that just in word, but in deed. And so what that entails is for us to make sure that our curriculum offerings, our programmatic changes, and the courses we are making sure that are being placed in front of our students reflects the diversity of more than 83 languages that are spoken here. And then thirdly, and this one is a little bit more ambitious and certainly more futuristic, we're looking towards creating opportunities for every single adult who works and serves in Des Moines Public Schools to become bilingual, right? Not necessarily proficient within their first or second year. We want to make sure we're scaffolding that. And so we are going to make sure that we provide exposure to every adult to at least take up a second language and become bilingual.
And I just have to add, can you imagine how exciting it would be that our students graduate and they have more than one language under their belt in a sufficient way? I mean, that's powerful in a global economy, and that's a big, bold proclamation to make sure that we are exposing young people to lots of different languages, but that's a competitive difference. And so we should lean into our diversity, to our languages, to our culture, because that's why people are going to want to send their kids to Des Moines Public Schools.
And I would also add, if I may, that's what sort of distinguishes from every other school system in the state of Iowa. That's what certainly makes us strong. I crossed paths with one of our students earlier this year who speaks 8 different languages. That's who we are. That's DMPS, and we're going to embrace and elevate those cultural differences.
And shout out to the bilingual seal of literacy. Sorry.
DMPS has more than 70 schools and buildings. Have you considered more climate-friendly actions like electric school buses and solar energy, more trees and plants and less grass or composting?
We absolutely have, and I have to say that we are incredibly inspired, both the board and I, when we saw a number of student representatives from our high schools who've approached us with a well-laid-out plan to make sure that we are becoming much greener. And so as of now, I know that our operations team have already started to look into what are some ways that we can contribute to this initiative. So electric buses is one consideration, and then we're looking at a number of other areas where we can sort of move in that direction. So yes.
Okay. What is being done to address the lack of proficiency in reading at the elementary level? Is consideration be given to the new curriculum that better aligns with science of reading and structured literacy?
It certainly does, Hushin. That's an excellent question. Early literacy is one of our priorities, right? We recognize that exposure to strong and rigorous academic content when it comes to reading is a game changer. It's a game changer not because of how students can perform in terms of their academic outcomes, but when we think about the longitudinal impact, it inspires us to want to focus relentlessly on early literacy. For example, when you look at, it is said that 70% of state and federal prisoners who are incarcerated right now are reading at a 4th grade level or below, right? That's a compelling data point that makes us think that we have to make sure we focus on early literacy. And so if you sort of have conversations with a number of our English language arts teachers from pre-K all the way through 12th grade, they have embraced the science of reading as a key resource that they're utilizing with a focus on the 5 tenets or components of the science of reading. So we will continue to make sure that we're tweaking and refining our practices so that we can get our students' reading proficiency increased in a significant way.
And Hushindi, I'd be remiss if I didn't add that we put so much pressure on our teachers to teach literacy and teach reading. And we've got to continue to ask our parents, our families, our community to help our young people and continue to expose them to literacy. Volunteers are welcome to come into our classrooms. After-school programs need volunteers. There's so many different ways that our young people can be exposed to literacy and reading. And so on a regular basis, we know people are stretched, we know parents are stressed, but we also have to ask our families to help us by reading to their children every night if they're able. And if they can't, let's find a caregiver who can help them. But reading to a child every night and modeling reading is really important. And so anybody that's around kids or can be around kids, please do everything in your power to encourage reading, not just in the classroom, but outside of the school walls as well.
If you don't work for Des Moines Public Schools, you might not know this, but Dr. Roberts sends each week a wonderful and heartfelt message to all who serve in Des Moines Public Schools. In each address, you share the Executive Cabinet's commitment that staff feel seen, heard, and supported. How are you realizing that commitment, and what has been the result of that effort?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. The effort is still, I would say, in its infancy, although we've started it several months ago. And the daily and weekly feedback, while it's inspiring, some of it is also very telling and revealing in terms of the fact that we are still not quite where we want to be. Right? While we have a number of staff who truly feel seen, heard, and supported, we have probably the same amount who are not having that experience. And so our commitment is to make sure that we continue to make decisions that are truly aligned to this sort of philosophy that we've espoused. And you know, that weekly note really is anchored in our desire and ask for us to teach, serve, and lead from an orientation that is empathetic. I truly believe that while there is no panacea to make people feel seen, heard, and supported, showing up every single day with an empathetic orientation is certainly going to take us in the right direction to do that.
How do you explain social emotional learning to people who don't understand or who have been misinformed about the impact SEL has on adults and students?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in.
Sure.
So SEL, unfortunately, doing this incredibly politicized arena has become one of those three-letter acronyms, right, that people are misinterpreting. Social emotional learning is grounded in so much credible research, including the work that comes out of Yale University and Castle, which is one of the founders of social emotional learning. SEL has 5 tenets or components that truly anchors itself in getting our students and even our adults to do a lot of self-reflection. It allows them to self-regulate, to become self-aware, to become socially aware. SEL really encourages our adults to think about making solid decisions, not only for themselves, but for others. And finally, the fifth component of our tenet of SEL is that it really encourages individuals around responsible, just being responsible young people, responsible adults. And so the work that we are committed to doing with social emotional learning for students and social emotional learning for adults, I think can be a game changer in how people are feeling in terms of their own mental health. We know for a fact that there's a correlation between school and school systems that have embraced SEL and how they're able to retain many of their teachers, because it reduces the likelihood that they're going to be exhausted or have mental health challenges. And we also know that SEL has been a game changer and has had a tremendous impact on students feeling as if school is a place where they want to be. So we are committed to making sure that we educate those who do not fully understand what SEL is. And SEL is not a bad three-letter word or acronym, but it's something that we need to embrace.
It sounds like something that business leaders should embrace.
It absolutely is. And as a matter of fact, with much excitement, I'll share that a number of business leaders around the country have embraced the tenets of social-emotional learning because they realize that it's one of the antidotes to this phenomenon that they've started to experience in the last 3 years of quiet quitting, where a lot of their employees were just quitting quietly. SEL has contributed to that retention.
A quality education is defined by so much more than standardized test scores. What are other indicators can help define the conditions of our schools?
Yeah, test scores is one of those singular measures that we, based on legislation and then based on sort of the optics, we have to have a relentless focus on test scores. But as a public school system, we are not going to be measured only by test scores. We have so many outcomes and so many other ways that we can celebrate our students' accomplishments and achievements. And the same way that we are going to celebrate our teachers and leaders by looking at sort of a myriad of data points, and test scores is one of them. We want to be able to celebrate our teachers' commitment to the work that they're doing. I've visited so many of our schools, and we're the average tenure of teachers and adults who are in the building is 15 to 20 years. That is unheard of in most places. Why aren't we celebrating that? Let's celebrate teachers' longevity in spite of the challenges that they have been dealing with for the last 15 to 20 years. We have to celebrate that. We have to celebrate the retention of strong leaders. We have to celebrate the retention of staff that we are keeping in place because they are committed to the work that we're doing. And we also have to celebrate, right, as a school system, just the focus of the community on how they're willing to partner with us. The Mountain Public Schools has more than 180 different partners, and these are individuals who are constantly knocking our doors and asking the question, how can I assist? That is not happening everywhere else in this country. So we have to celebrate all of those things in addition to celebrating academic achievement and test scores.
How will the district address the unequal number of students served in each DMPS schools? Will consolidating buildings, building new, or changing attendance areas be considered?
I think as we shared before, everything's on the table. And you can get scared about that, or you can say, we've got an amazing opportunity. We have a chance to rethink the way kids learn, the buildings that they walk through, the programming that we offer. It's coming. And so we might as well get excited about it, because there's a way to do great things and also do that within a resource-constricted environment. Change can be hard. And so I think as leaders, part of what we have to do is be transparent and effectively communicate so people understand what's coming, so they understand the research and the logic and the thinking behind it. But we've also got to take some leaps of faith. It's time. It is go time, and we don't have years. We have a couple of years to look and move a very big system in a little bit of a different direction. And so I think we're kind of just saying, as a board, as a superintendent, let's go.
This touches on a little bit about what you talked about earlier about reading in schools, but what else can we do out in the community to support our neighborhood schools?
So I'll say a few things, and this isn't necessarily specific to neighborhood schools, although the best thing you could do is stop by your neighborhood school and ask what they need and ask how you can help, because every neighborhood school is a little different, and the needs are a little different. And what one school may need, another may not. And I think that also addresses the conversation that you had about equality. It's a heavy time right now in our schools. Our students are scared. They're scared about the changing nature of our climate. They're scared about their physical safety. They see divisive politics all around them and wonder what the heck is going on. And adults too, right? But I think we have to acknowledge students haven't lived as long as we are. And so I guess I would just ask everybody to recognize that, to people that are in the community that maybe don't walk through the halls every day of the buildings to see the kids that we see. Do everything in your power to look at these young people, look at them in the eye, ask them how they're doing, check in, be present for them in any way possible, because we need our young people to know that we care about them, that we are invested in them. They are our future. We need them. We want them to succeed. And I think the more we spread that message to our community, stop looking at our young people as different than us and start looking at them as amazing human beings. Like, look at this guy, look at Allison. We are in great shape. And so spread that message far and wide throughout every potential area in Des Moines.
Our producer, Kyle Nicely, just gave me the heads up that we are almost out of time. Dr. Roberts, is there anything you'd like to add?
Certainly. I think I want to add three things. The first is I want to build on what Jackie just shared in terms of how we need to go into our schools to make sure that our teachers and our students and staff are feeling supported. You know, there's a Japanese term, gemba, which translates into the place of value. When we think about the work that we have to do, the place of value for each and every one of us is in our school buildings, in our classrooms. And so we want to encourage every single person to make sure that they're visiting our schools and spending quality time with every adult and every student so they understand that they have a village. The last two things I'll share is this. I want to look to each and every one of you in the audience, regardless of your position, whether you're a community supporter, you are a part of the legislature, or you are a teacher or a leader. I want to ask you to reflect on the commitment that you made during your interview for your current job. What is the one thing that you said you were going to do when you were interviewing for your job 5 years ago or 50 years ago? And ask yourself, am I delivering on this promise still? Am I delivering on this promise? And finally, you've seen the data. Des Moines Public Schools is the most linguistically and culturally diverse school system here in the state of Iowa, and probably one of those in the entire country. Our student population does not reflect the leaders and teachers who serve them. But that's not a daunting reality. With that said, I want to encourage you, or humbly ask of you, to think about the decisions that you're making every single day. And one such decision is, each time you show up to one of our schools, I want you to see echoes of yourself in students who share no commonality with you. And then and only then will we truly be able to make sure that we're serving 100% of our students. In closing, I want to say thank you for attending today. I hope you go out and have an enjoyable day. Gracias por atender. Espero que tengas un lindo día. Gracias.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts, and thank you, Chair Norris. We appreciate you so much. Thank you to my co-host, Hooshindi Abwe, for joining me. I'm Amanda Lewis. This has been a special 2024 State of the Schools episode of the Become Here Project, a Des Moines Public Schools podcast.